Hey guys, Alex here with Everything Utah Real Estate. Like I promised, we're gonna have my lender on here. His name is Oscar. He is awesome. He does all my stuff. I've worked with him since almost day one. I've closed deals with a lot of other lenders, um, and I'm gonna be honest with you. As good as they all are, even some in his own office, which he doesn't really know, but as good as they all are, Oscar, there's a reason I sent him all my stuff. He's very responsive, which is super difficult to find in this day and age for some reason. But he also just destroys everybody as far as getting good interest rates and getting the lowest fees possible because he's a broker. So Oscar, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Yeah, so again, my name's Oscar. I'm originally from the UK, but live here in the US now. I have been involved with kind of the financial industry for a long time now. I did my degree in finance, and I've worked in lending for a long time now, and love it. I especially really enjoy the real estate side of it, of helping people be able to get in their home. And my favorite thing is helping people who maybe didn't think that they had the opportunity of purchasing a home to be able to make that awesome step. So Alex and I we were both really excited to be able to connect through this and be able to provide a resource that can help people wade through a lot of the information. There's so much information that's chucked out to people. Purchasing a home, whether it's your first home, second home, whether you're buying an investment home, through all the channels that are out there right now, there's so much information. And so Alex and I are really excited to be able to help you wade through all that information and find really helpful information to help you with your home purchase. So it's great to be with you, Alex, and great to be doing this together.
It's awesome to be here with you, man. And yeah, just to piggyback off of that, there's a lot of junk out there, like a lot of trash information on like TikTok and stuff, because a lot of the people who make that content, they're not industry professionals. They don't do it every day, or they just don't really know what they're talking about. There's a lot of good stuff out there too, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of trash. So we're here to fix some of that and add to the good stuff. But yeah, so we had a couple of topics in mind today. More so just having a conversation of, okay, like, what are some horror stories that we have of people who decided to wait before making a move, whether they're buying, selling, or whatever they're doing. Just a lot of our clients, especially when rates were 2%, they decided to hold off because of how competitive it was, and then later on, rates triple, and then they're not really able to afford a home anymore, even though there's not as much competition. So I don't know, Oscar, have you had experiences like that?
Yeah, so I definitely have, and it's interesting both with clients and as well. Waiting to purchase is well. First of all, there's never going to be like a perfect time to cost you a lot, right? And if you're always holding out for the perfect time, you're going to be waiting a long time, and you're going to be missing out on a lot of possible wins. I remember way back before the pandemic, before all of that crazy appreciation. Back when I was in college, I remember sitting in a real estate investment class, and we were valuing properties, and the professor and everybody came together and decided the market was way overvalued. All the properties were way higher than they should have been. And then a couple years down the line, and how much higher did we go in appreciation in 2020, 2021?
Like we went up 28%.
28%, right? And so, people back in 2018, 2019 that were thinking, that homes are too expensive and decided to wait, missed out on a ton of appreciation and a ton of wealth. And as well, that's an educational one, but as well, I've had people that on a client basis that decided to hold off, and it's kind of come back to bite them in the butt, because when you're waiting, first of all, if you don't already own a home, if you decide to wait, you're paying rent instead of a mortgage, which, as high as, even though interest rates are higher right now, paying rent is 100% interest, right? None of it's going into your pocket. It's all going in someone else's pocket. And you're also missing out on appreciation as well, which is, gaining massive equity in a property, gaining an asset that's going to help you in the future. So there are definite drawbacks for sure. What about you, Alex? What have you seen?
Yeah. So going off of that, before I get into mine, what are the reasons? I mean, payments have almost doubled. Actually, they have doubled, right? Between a 2% interest rate, 3% interest rate to where they are now at like almost 7%, right? Why would somebody, and rent's way cheaper, like for a townhome, same exact townhome, your rent is going to be $2,200, maybe $2,400 a month, whereas your mortgage on that, because it's like 450 grand, is going to be pretty much $3,000. Why would somebody decide to buy a home when their payments are going to be way higher rather than just rent?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. So, first and foremost, and Alex, you and I will 100% agree on this, I imagine. But it very much depends on your situation. If you're in a situation where you can't afford a mortgage payment, don't buy a house.
Yep.
Don't buy the house. If your monthly payment is going to be something where it's going to be a serious burden, and you are going to struggle to, with food, your vehicles, and to provide for your family, don't buy a house yet. If that's going to be something that's not affordable for you. The worst thing on the planet is for you to buy this awesome step of purchasing a house, and it's so much more of a burden than a blessing.
Yep.
You want to have the purchase of your home be something that you are so excited about, something that you're moving forward in, having something that's truly done. But if that is something that's going to keep you awake and stressed all the time, then take a step back and wait to purchase that home. And that goes for if it's first home especially, but as well, looking to scale up. But if you're in a situation that's different than that, if you're in a situation where you have the income, the ability to hold mortgage payment, then 100% buy is my opinion, because there's only upsides. There's a saying that we we say all the time as mortgage loan officers, so we get sick of it, but people that aren't mortgage loan officers don't hear it as much. But we say, marry the home, date the rate. Have you heard that, Alex?
Yep.
Yeah, you've
Almost
heard it.
every day.
Alex says you've heard it.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Your mortgage payments are only, so rent is an upward trend, right? So rent's going to increase year over year. But your mortgage payment is really, things can change with taxes and things like that. But on the whole, your mortgage payment is set in stone. So it can't, unless, if you're getting a fixed rate, right? We're not talking about adjustable rate mortgages. If you're getting a fixed rate mortgage, your mortgage payment is set in stone, right? Yep. So it can't be raised year over year like rent could be. But what it can be is it can be lowered. And that is very, very likely, right? There's only three things that can happen with mortgage rates. They can either go up, they can go straight, or they can go down, right? If you locked in your rate, it can't go up like rent payments can do. Holding steady really not likely over the grand scheme of things. Everything bounces around. Going down is a very real possibility and an extremely real possibility we're currently at because it spiked up so quickly. We've seen higher mortgage rates than this um, plenty of times in our past,
Yeah.
right? If you talk to your parents and grandparents, then we've definitely seen higher than 10% interest rates in the past. But up this quickly, no. And and really, we will see decreases. And so by getting the home, you're getting that property that's your own, and it's something that you can afford, and you're going to have even more room for your monthly payments as it goes down, and you have opportunities to refinance and reap the rewards of the savings.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
And another thing too that I feel like a lot of people don't understand is everybody, at least in my experience, and I'm sure yours is they don't look at really anything else other than the payments. Do you have that experience? So like they look at rent's 2,200, and they look at their mortgage and it's 3,000, and they just feel like it's better to rent because the payments are lower. Does that sound right to you?
yeah, yeah, and I mean I mean after all, like the interest rate is just a number. So when it gets thrown around on the news all the time, that definitely does scare people
Yep.
a little bit, but really you're paying a monthly payment per month. Most people don't even remember what the mortgage rate is, if
Yeah.
you're, down the line a little bit after closing. But what they do remember is how much they have to fork over each month.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
would definitely agree with that.
The reason I mention that is because there's a lot of things on the back end. So like even though interest rates are high right now, guess what? I mean, I'm sure everybody watching this, as well as me and you, pay taxes, right? Um,
Hmm.
a lot of people don't know that a lot of the things when you buy a home, like your interest rate, like your interest and your taxes, so like your property taxes, are almost entirely tax deductible. And I mean, obviously, I'm not a tax professional. Talk to your tax guy, but for the most part, you can actually write off the entirety of your interest, of the interest you pay. So, like for example, let's just say you're in the 20% tax bracket, right? And you're paying about $30,000 between taxes and interest every year, right? So basically, you get a $6,000 rebate. So you don't have to pay $6,000 of taxes because you're writing off 30 grand versus worth of interest and property taxes. So you're saving $6,000, which is $500 a month, right? Let's say your mortgage is, I don't know, $3,000 a month. If you calculate that $6,000 over the year, that's basically $500 per month. Okay. And what's like the average amount of principal that's going to be going towards your home? Like I don't know, $450,000 home, 7% rate. What's the average amount of principal that's paying down every month?
Well, it's going to increase over time.
Yeah.
So it's at the beginning it's pretty minimal, but yeah, as throughout the course of the loan, it's going to be more and more and more. Um, but yeah, yeah, for sure. There's so many benefits that help as well. But you are paying, you know, a little bit, and then more and more and more is actually going back in your pocket, rather than just straight into your landlord's pocket.
Yeah. Would you say like 600 or well, like $500 a month is about accurate for like monthly on
Um,
average principal pay down?
yeah, I mean it's going to increase over time. So
Of course.
I'm not gonna I can't check like a dollar amount on it at the
Yeah.
very beginning. But yeah, yeah, for sure. At the beginning, it's you are paying mostly interest to it, and then as your mortgage payment goes down, so it varies. But yeah, like with seriously with the tax benefits as well, that helps as well. And there's as well, a lot of programs as well that help to decrease that as well. I said as well like 12 times, but
I was just gonna say.
uh, the it's cool that we're in a right now. We've seen it come down by a little ways from where we were at the top. So, Alex, with from what you've seen in the market, from when we're at the top of appreciation, how far have we come down on home prices?
Yeah, this is the craziest part because everybody expected, including myself, like, okay, if rates hit 7%, we're going to come down at least 10%. Like that, I was like, that's pretty fair. Rates triple, prices come down 10%. That's like, I mean, that sounds about accurate. But what ended up happening is peak of our market in last April, rates were like, what, 4%, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Average sales price was 657,000. Okay. Average sales price. And right now rates are 7% almost. Average sales price is 614,000. So it didn't come down as much as you would hope. Right. And it's actually been trending down the last couple of weeks. So over the last couple of weeks, just because the market's been cooling off, it was actually higher. Average sales price was 630,000. Okay, we've trended down a little bit since then, just because the market's cooling off. But it's just, you'd think it would be more, but it's not. I don't know when the breaking point's going to be. Like if rates hit 9% or 10%, I don't know at that point what's going to happen to prices, but like I said, it's not coming down as much as everybody was thinking.
Yeah, for sure.
And question for you, Oscar, what is that, 30 grand almost, that people are almost 40 grand that people saved in purchase price? How much does that correlate to their mortgage payment versus the 7% rate? Like, how much do their payments change by waiting, even though prices come down 40%?
Yeah, I mean, interest rate, it's the drop in purchase prices. It helps monthly payment by a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, it does drop it by a little bit. But your interest rate is gonna change it by a lot more. So, like waiting to see if home prices are going to come down by a good chunk more, which I don't see that happening. I don't know about you, Alex. I don't see there being a huge drop off coming with home prices anytime soon. But there is.
Oh, we lost him, boys. We lost him. He's going to come back soon, I promise. But just from a rent versus buy perspective, okay, $30,000 between taxes and insurance you're paying. So your mortgage is $3,000, okay, and your rent is $2,200. You're weighing the options here. Let's say between interest and property taxes, you're paying $30,000. Almost all of it. Talk to your tax guy, whatever. All of it's tax deductible. You can deduct it on your taxes. If you're in the 20% tax bracket, like probably a lot of you are, that's going to save you $6,000. Okay. If you break that into a monthly thing, that's $500 a month. Okay. And if you deduct that from your mortgage, you're basically paying $2,500 a month. After it's all said and done, at the end of the year, when you're paying your taxes, $2,500 a month, not counting your principal, right? If your principal is $500 a month, now you're paying $2,000 a month, right? Because you're deducting that from the total thing, because all that's just going into savings, basically. It's a forced savings account is the way I like saying it, because you have to pay down principal as well. So all that's going to savings. So at the end of the day, money that's coming out of your pocket, you're never going to get back, is closer to $2,000 rather than $3,000, right? After tax, tax advantages, as well as your principal pay down. And that doesn't even count your appreciation, right? You are appreciating on that property. In Utah, it's like 5.8% per year, right? We'll just say 5%, right? If you have a $500,000 home, at the end of 5 years, you're going to have an extra 130 something thousand dollars, right? Because it's compounding appreciation. So, and at the end of the day, in that 5 year mark, your landlord is going to be increasing your rent the entire time, and he's going to be taking the appreciation and the principal pay down that you would have got had you bought. Okay. And then when you go buy, now that house is $130,000 more than it was before. So there's a lot of advantages to buying rather than renting that a lot of people don't see because their agents don't tell them or their lenders don't tell them. So those are the reasons we're on here. Just feel like it's important to let people know that. But let me see what's going on with this guy. He might just be gone. He's never coming back. That could be a reality here. Okay. I'm trying to make sure. Perfect. Okay. Continue where we left off. Do we just lose connection? Is that what happened?
Yeah. Let's see. What was the last?
We were talking about basically buying versus renting.
Yeah, I think we were talking about the appreciation, home prices, drop off. So yeah, that we weren't anticipating there to be an additional drop in home prices, right?
Yep. So let's actually totally change gears because we initially started off with waiting because a lot of people, that's their default mode. Like once they don't really know what to do, they just decide to wait. So let's go back on that. What are some advantages of waiting for the market to get better? Like you're waiting for prices to come down or you're waiting for interest rates to come down. What are some advantages of waiting? So
it really, again, if it's in a situation where buying a house is outside your budget right now, like if you're in a situation where, buying a condo, a townhouse, a single family house is going to be have a monthly payment that causes you to have to add additional like credit card debts or additional other debts in order to keep up, it's going to put you in a lot worse situation. So if you're in a situation where you can continue renting, and that's going to be something that you can handle without needing to acquire a bunch of other debts, that's definitely a benefit. Again, and we mentioned as well that we don't anticipate home prices coming down further. It's possible that they do. And then you can take a look at moving in from there. But mainly for me, if waiting is going to be in a situation where making a monthly payment on a mortgage is going to be tough, and that is going to be the best situation for you. So what are you thinking, Alex?
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of people when they decide to wait, their thought process is, okay, my payments are going to be super high right now because of interest rates. So if I wait for interest rates to come down, my payments aren't going to be as high and I'm going to be able to afford it. And the problem with that thought process, in my opinion, is, okay, you wait for interest rates to come down. Let's backwards math this. Okay, so what was the market like last April? I'll answer for you. It was crazy. It was nuts. There was multiple offers on every single home. Every home you even thought about buying either already had an offer on it or you're going to be the first one and you're going to have to go over asking. Like it was just stupid. And that's when rates were 4%. Okay. And a lot of people are waiting for rates to hit 4 or 5% before they buy. Okay. So let's backwards math this. If rates jump, let's just say this, how many other people want rates to hit 4 or 5%? Almost everybody, including myself. That would be pretty cool. So when rates do that, what's going to happen to the market? How many more buyers are going to be on the market? I'll answer that for you too. A lot. There's going to be a lot more buyers on the market because rates, everyone can afford a home now. Almost everyone, right? There's just going to be more buyers. And what happens when there's more buyers? more competition, prices go up. Okay. Is it realistic for prices to go up to where they were last April, like back up there? Probably. So in all reality, you're not saving money. You're paying for it somewhere. Whether you're buying now or buying later, you're going to pay for it somewhere. You're going to pay either in the price of the home or the interest. Okay. Like you're not, it's hard to really save money by waiting. I don't know. What do you have to say? Rambling on. Oh no, we lost Oscar. I don't really know what's going on. We're just going to kind of have to deal with it, but rolling with the punches here. And I promise you guys, this is going to get better. This is literally the first time we've done a podcast together, so it'll get better. But here's the deal. As far as waiting goes, like I said in the previous podcast, it almost always loses you money to wait. Okay. And it's not just in real estate either. It's in almost everything. Stock market, buying toothpaste, buying anything. And it's just because prices of things naturally go up as more people are born and more people live on the earth and more people make more money. Inflation hits stuff. Like if you bought gasoline 40 years ago, when gasoline was like a nickel for a gallon, if you held on to it now, it'd be $4 a gallon. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. You buy things sooner, it's going to save you money later, just because naturally prices go up with almost everything. And you're paying someone. Whether you're in home terms, you're either going to be paying a higher interest rate or you're going to be paying a higher purchase price. That's just kind of how it works. And right now, we're hoping we can get best of both worlds here in a year or two, meaning you buy a home now at a lower price, and then in a year or two, you refinance and get a lower rate. That's kind of what we're hoping. Will it happen? Nobody knows. But that's what we're hoping, just because all of the indicators are pointing towards that's happening, meaning rates are going to be coming down. You're going to be able to refinance. But obviously, nobody can tell the future, right? There were a lot of indicators about 2008 happening, and a lot of people ignored them. So it's hard to tell what the future is going to hold. But actually, before I do that, I'm going to finish my horror story. So this was a client. This was early on in my career. I had a client who, I can't divulge too much information because of confidentiality and stuff, but two clients dating, wanted to buy a home together, ended up putting a couple of homes under contract, and a couple of them just fell through, just didn't quite work. Things popped up on the inspection. This is actually back in 2 years ago in November when there were like 1,500 homes on the market at any given time. So very competitive market. And my clients were doing USDA 0% down, had almost no money for earnest money. I put them under contract 3 different times, not having to go over asking. So like I was pretty pumped, like doing a good job, going to be able to get them into a home. Finally put them under contract in a home in southern Utah. And it looked great. Like inspection came back fine. Appraisal came in fine. We were a couple of days away from closing. I actually believe we got the clear to close and everything. And there were some problems. They basically got cold feet. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is also when rates were like 2%. Everybody could afford a home, right? Oh, Oscar's here. Let's go. Can you hear me, Oscar?
I can. Yeah.
Perfect.
Can you hear me okay?
We are back in business.
All right. Nice.
Sweet.
That was
Let's hope
we're having a clunky first time, but that's okay.
Dude, we're gonna hobble through the finish line. It's gonna be great. I'm trying to roll with the punches here and sharing a horror story. Kind of on the first topic before we totally switch gears. Actually, no, so Jacinda was working on a client with me. long story short, back in November when the market was super competitive, got him under contract on a home, nice home. Um, Everything came back fine. We were like a week away from no, a little less than a week away from closing, and we just got the clear to close, and they got cold feet. And this was when rates were like super low, and now fast forward to now, they were like, oh yeah, we're probably just gonna like wait another year or so just because this and this happened and whatever. Um, and then now rates are 7%, and there's no way, zero way that they could afford a home now, because their price range at the time was like 300,000, and with rates being 7%, they could maybe afford a $60,000 home. So yeah, just another horror story to share, a real life one of what can happen if you wait. But yeah, now that Oscar's back, we're gonna switch gears again. And where did we leave off?
Well, yeah, I mean that's we were talking about a similar vein of things of just waiting and kind of having expectations of home prices to do one thing or interest rates to do one thing, and then to unfortunately get that wrong. So yeah, it is thinking that you can um, just wait and have a much better situation that comes up can definitely come and hit you in the backside, especially with with that situation. Same thing has happened with me in a couple of different times with home buyers. So which vein of thought were you looking to go down, Alex?
Yeah, so that's where we were at. So I'm trying to think of pros and cons of waiting. Like, okay, we wait. This is what could happen on the good side, but this is also one of the cons. And then you touched on if you genuinely can't afford it, waiting until you possibly could afford it is a good option. But I guess, what are some options right now if maybe you qualify for the home, but you don't necessarily feel comfortable with the payments of it and you still want to continue forward? What are some ways to help alleviate some of that stress as far as making the payments go?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And there exists kind of different options if we're talking about someone who is buying a home for the first time, or if it's someone that already owns a home but they're looking to scale up. So for instance, someone that maybe bought a house in 20 or bought like a condo or like a townhouse or something in 2021, 2020, and looking to scale up. So there are different options that exist for both of those people. So we're still in a market where, so back in 2020, 2021, all of the cards were in the seller's hand, right? They had a royal flush with any property that they had, and buyers were just queuing up to pay whatever the seller would say, really, because there was that much competition, and so paying so much above what was being asked. We're still in an environment. We're now more in an environment where, because there are less people purchasing homes because of affordability, and or because of just being scared into waiting. A lot less people that are offering on homes, and so because of that, things like seller concessions, so things to help people cover their down payment, but also things like buy downs, whether it's like a full buy down to pay down your interest rate permanently, or a temporary buy down to pay down your interest for the first year, 2 years, to drop it to a lower portion. So to make it as if you're paying 1%, 2% lower than what your actual payment is for the first year or two, as I mentioned, so that you can take a look of getting those savings at the beginning to hopefully refinance in the future. So that's an option that exists. That's a fantastic option, and is pretty common that you can get concessions from sellers. The other one that on a if you have a property side, there's other options. That is still an option that exists for you. Getting seller concessions on your subsequent house. But the other thing as well is because there are so many people currently renting, the other option is if you have your condo, you have your townhouse, you have this place that you locked in at this awesome interest rate, right? That you locked in at somewhere in the 2s or 3s or even 4s, right? With the lower payment that you can easily afford, you have the option of using that townhouse, using that condo.
My whole laptop just shut off. That is unfortunate. We are never going to finish this podcast. I swear. This is amazing. I cannot believe I cannot believe just how perfectly timed these things are. You can't fake it. I mean, it's off. It's completely off. But here we are. I'm going to go figure out what's going on. 1 second.
You have the option of using that townhouse, using that condo as a rental property to rent that out and to be able to reap the benefits of having a rent payment coming in to offset that mortgage and sometimes even that mortgage and some, and using the benefits and using the funds acquired from that to kind of offset your new property that you're having. So if you're buying a new property, a new house that has a higher monthly payment, right? You still can keep your old condo, your old townhouse, rent that out, have that mortgage payment being taken care of by someone else, that they are gaining appreciation, putting appreciation into your pocket, right? As they're paying off this mortgage. So you're getting equity and the home values again could increase. But as well, if you're actually able to rent it out even for more than what you spend for it, then if you're able to rent it out for even more than what your mortgage payment is, then you can be able to use those funds to offset now your higher mortgage payment, right? Until you're in a position where you can refinance to a lower mortgage payment. So there are lots of different options that exist out there. So just because you're in a situation where we're in an environment that is a higher interest rate environment than what we've seen in 2020, 2021, that doesn't mean that you technically have to be paying a 7% interest rate. You can get a short-term reprieve from seller concessions to help offset that. But then as well, you can be able to, and again, hopefully the goal of that is that in a year or two's time, that interest rates will decrease so that you can refinance. And we are in a trend where we should see decreases happen. We have, a big portion of mortgage rates is inflation, and we've just seen insane inflation in the US and abroad all across. Back in my home in the UK, they've had killer inflation, but we've seen that coming down. And inflation is such a massive thing on mortgage rates because they're lending funds, right, that they're getting not a great return on because of how high the inflation rate is. So that has been on a downward trend. And especially now we're hitting kind of a month-to-month range, just barely starting to hit a month-to-month range, which if we continue in this vein with our inflation reports, that inflation will be back to good levels of what we need it to be within a year or so's time. And it's not generally an exact science, but if that can be taken under control, then mortgage rates will be lower. We won't be back in the 2-3 range. So if people are waiting to get somewhere back in the range 2021, it's really not going to happen. That was like a perfect storm in a good way for mortgages. That's not happening again. But getting back in the 4-5 range is definitely possible. And a big portion of that, not all of it, but a big portion of that will be helped along by inflation. So so we are in a situation where you can get a home, get seller concessions to help push down the payment to make it a little bit more comfortable for you. Still don't buy outside what you should, right? Make sure that we're still looking at homes and staying within a good range that feels that's not going to push you too far if rates don't come down to more comfortable levels for you within the time frame that you need it to. So again, don't spend more than you should, but it can help give you that buffer to when you can potentially, be able to refinance the rate or even, increase your income to better your situation there. And then, as I said, again, you don't have to, if you own a house at 2%, 3%, somewhere like that, you don't have to lose your fantastic interest rate. You can actually use that for a rental and move into a different primary residence and rent out your condo, townhouse at a much lower interest rate. Because if you're trying to purchase an investment property today, your interest rates are very high. If you think sevens, high interest rate properties are higher than that. So you can have investment properties are higher than that. You can have an investment property and keep your low interest rate and then look at having a new primary residence that you can have. Right now it's 6 or 7 and then refinance that down in the future. So that's a great option of being able to still move forward and avoiding just waiting. So really though, that's kind of where we see, Alex said this in the last video, and I want to reiterate this. Anybody that says that they can perfectly predict what the market is going to do, you need to exercise caution with that, because no one can perfectly tell you what the market is going to do. And when I say market, speaking really broadly, no one is perfect at timing the stock market, at timing the home prices, at timing the bond market, and the bond market ultimately dictates what mortgage rates are going to do. So like mortgage-backed securities and treasury bonds. So no one can perfectly predict what mortgage rates are going to do. No one can. And if they say they can, exercise caution, and I guarantee they've been wrong dozens or hundreds of times. So especially recently, where it has been just, we've been in a situation that we've never had before, right? Using historical examples helps a great deal to give us some context and give us some understanding of what we're going through. But we're in a situation that we've never had before. We've never had the appreciation that we've had, and just the massive spike in interest rates from the 2s to the 7s. Back in the 80s we had a big spike, but there's 2008 wasn't like this. We've passed through many different situations that were not like this at all. So you can't perfectly predict what's going to happen, but we should, based on where things have been and where things are going, we should have come over the peak. So we shouldn't see, in my opinion, get rates getting up higher to the peaks of where we've been. But we are on a downward slope. How long it takes to come down that slope, everybody's been proven wrong. I've been proven wrong. People have been in this industry for 30, 40, 50 years have been proven wrong. The Federal Reserve, who it's their entire job to to regulate and to basically predict and help the economy and the country be able to weather all these different dips and changes. They've been proven wrong, seriously wrong, with detrimental effect. So nobody can perfectly predict it, but we should be on a downward trajectory. The amount of time it takes to get back to 4s, 5s remains to be seen. It depends on the state of inflation, how long it takes for inflation to get under control, to get back to the kind of 2% annual levels that we've been looking at. And that means, that we're at kind of 0.2% or lower for, a 12-month period. And then as well, the other thing is just economic stability. So, as I said, mortgage rates, they're dictated by bonds, and people flock to bonds when economic stability is down, right? And so when the economy is down, that's actually helps mortgage rates. And so there's lots of different factors that have been in going into play with the current situation. So depending on the different jobs reports, economic reports, and inflation reports, those are going to be the things that dictate where interest rates are going to go. So, but yeah, that's the main thing with kind of expectations of going towards the future, is really there is so much benefit to be gained. Like Alex mentioned, we really don't see there being a big drop in home prices. So that's just not something that really shows is on the cards. And also, so not a huge drop in home prices, but indications that there will be a drop in mortgage rates means that purchasing your home, especially in the long term, has a high likelihood of yielding appreciation. That's going to help you, going to grow your wealth, is going to be able to provide you with all sorts of different abilities. And then as well, dropping interest rates help, so your property value goes up, inflation rate goes, your mortgage rate goes down, and it's just going to provide a better and better situation for you. And we lost Alex for a little bit, and we got you back in. It's been a little bit passing the baton through this video.
The turns have tabled. It is my turn to back out now.
Michael Scott. There we go.
Okay.
But, cool. Yeah. So we've just been chatting about, expectations of where the mortgage rates, we see it going, and just continuing on our theme of, one option of being able to use seller concessions and different options like that to help you, or as well keeping your awesome low interest rate of 2-3%, if you already own a smaller home, and then still being able using that rental income to offset a higher interest rate home while you have that higher interest rate. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure you've already been through this, but tell me if I'm wrong or what you think. My expectation for rates right now are, obviously nobody knows where they're going to go. There's no way to tell, but 100%. all the indicators 100%. Are telling us that they're going to trend down eventually. And it's really just dependent on where inflation goes, as well as just where the rest of the economy goes. And right now it's looking like inflation's coming down and our economy is really strong, which I guess isn't good for inflation. But anyways, inflation's coming down a little bit. Our economy's still really strong. So eventually we're anticipating rates to come down. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, for sure. And we went over this a little bit, but yeah, exactly. It looks like we are over the peak and on the downward slope. So the question isn't so much, will we be lower at some point? The question is, how long is it going to take for us to be lower at some point? But it still is, at some point we will be lower. And so your 7% interest rate, your 6.5% interest rate isn't there to stay. It's a temporary thing that you have on your home, and your situation is just going to get better. We're at a situation where when those home buyers come in, that demand where there was 20 people lining up to put offers on a home and offering way above asking price, that didn't disappear overnight. They're still there. All those buyers are still there. They're still there waiting, right, for the perfect time to jump in. And so when all that comes in, we'll see appreciation start kind of coming back up again. And with interest rates going down. So if you can get in a home now, there's so much to be gained for dropping your payments and then gaining appreciation at the same time.
I have a question for you, Oscar. So if
Go
we're
for
just
it.
brainstorming here, obviously
Let's
we
just
don't
brainstorm.
Yeah, obviously we don't know the answer, but if you had to guess when rates are going to come down and how low do you think they'll come down to before they start trending up again? I used to think that this year. I used to think that July or August, we'd start seeing rates come down a little bit. Not only was I wrong, but the complete opposite happened because we had good job report after good job report, come in saying, oh, all these jobs have been added, which doesn't help inflation, and all that crap happened. So I was completely wrong. Now my guess is closer to basically next year, like August, September next year. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so great question. So it's fun. Yeah, so I mentioned this, but literally everyone has been proven wrong at some point or another, especially the the Federal Reserve. They've been proven more wrong than anyone. But like a very well-renowned, mortgage rate predictor, you could say, has mentioned that, predicted that already this summer we'd be in a lot lower rate environment. As you said, we've seen not kind of that happen. But we are in, you could say, we just barely, this is the first month that we've started hitting inflation reports at a level that if it were to continue, next summer we would be at the annual inflation rate that the Fed wants to see for a healthy economy. We're month one into that. So if that was to continue and, for us to get back there, we would, yeah. So it does look like, and we are hearing from when we were recording this, we're hearing from the Federal Reserve tomorrow, yeah. I believe. And so we should get more direction on what their outlook is for going forward. And the Fed Chair Jerome Powell will have his thoughts on it. But the thing is if we continue to see inflation reports, at least, coming in a similar vein as this current one, we will be in lower interest rates by next summer. Now, lower, definitely, I've said this, you've said this, lower interest rates does not mean 2-3. That's not what that means. That was
anomalies.
The unicorn of interest rates. We're not going to see that again.
Have rates ever, in the history of interest rates, have they, I guess mortgages, have interest rates ever been that low? I don't think they have.
I don't know of a time. Definitely not in the last 50 years. We would have to go way back in the past to look at that. And, we're not talking a similar market at all at that point. So we've been, yeah, no,
Absolute
nowhere even
unicorn
close.
year.
So yeah, unicorn. Well, it was a complete mixture of there wasn't inflation and the economy was dead, like dead in the water,
Yeah.
coming into COVID, and so there was just an absolute perfect storm in a good way for mortgage rates of getting that low. We won't see that again.
Yep.
But getting back into, pre, for like a couple years from the end of the 0809 crash to up until like pre-COVID, fours and even threes was pretty common. Like somewhere in that, high threes, kind of fours range, was pretty common. So getting back in the range of like the 4%, and even at this point, getting 5% is going to be great for home buyers. It's going to help a ton with affordability. It's going to help a ton with just borrowers' peace of mind of making that step forward with their first home purchase. So fours and fives, there's a lot of things. Yeah, so inflation is, as you mentioned, inflation is not the only factor, but it is going to help a great deal. Once the market has seen that we have turned a corner, which it does look like we've started to turn a corner with inflation. We'll need to get, a couple more reports to validate that over the next few months, and kind of we'll hear from what the Federal Reserve has to say. But it does look like a corner is being turned, where we are going to be making those strides back towards lower rates. The length of time that it takes to make those strides, that remains to be seen. But yeah, the direction of where rates are headed, and again, no crystal ball, but the direction definitely is on the downward slope of the mountain rather than the upward.
Yeah, so basically you're kind of in the same boat of this time next year, probably closer to like August, September-ish, rates hopefully will be closer to like 4 or 5%. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I think especially, yeah, yeah, possibly sooner. It could be possibly sooner, but again, I, along with a lot of people, expected the inflation to be able to be brought under control quicker than it has been. Yeah. Going into the end of last year, it seemed like it was, the Fed was starting to get it all wrapped up, and then it proved a little bit tougher than expected. But from what it looks like, from the indications that the market is showing, yeah, I would agree that by next summer. So again, if you're in a situation where you're purchasing a home now, and you have something like a 1-year buy down or a 2-year temporary buy down, right, that drops your interest rate for the first while, you should be able to look at refinancing within a year, maybe 2 years. So
yeah, I hope so. And personally,
me too.
And like personally, I'm kind of on all y'all's side, where I honestly want the market to crash. And from a real estate professional standpoint, that's like crazy. Like nobody really wants that, right? Because we're all going to lose our jobs, and we're going to have to sell our kids to make, ends meet. But I personally hope it happens. I mean, it'd be great to just be able to go buy a $500,000 home for $250,000. But unfortunately, as much as I want that to happen, it's not. Like, I can say that with certainty. We're not going to see like a crazy crash, unless something stupid happens. Like, I don't know, we get nuked. But at that point, we have something worse to worry about. So
yeah, we should probably be worried about, like there's going to be other more important things than the townhouse that we've had our eye on. So
exactly, like the people don't understand, like, okay, there's a reason the market crashes, and it's not like you're going to be the only person who's unaffected, right? there's going to be people who are going to be affected, and there's a reason why the market crashed to begin with, right? If our market crashes 50%, it's because something crazy happened that you should probably be worried about that more than buying a home. So, anyways, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I agree. I agree for sure.
But one question and I feel like it's a humongous misconception. I don't know if you touched on this while I was away, but when the Fed, because the only way for the Fed to fight inflation is for them to increase rates, which is like, the prime rate and all like short-term rate and stuff, the federal funds rate. When they do that, how does that affect mortgage rates?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually didn't touch on this, so this is great. So it is. I hear it all the time. Alex hears it all the time that home buyers get really scared and upset when it's coming up to a Fed meeting, and they're going to raise rates, and it's a conception that, oh well, home prices are just getting even more expensive. Sorry,
Rates.
mortgage interest rates are getting even more expensive because they're raising rates. So that's not at all what happens. So the federal funds rate, it deals with kind of the target rate that banks are lending from each other. They each have to have a reserve amount. Basically, I won't get into the minutia of it, but basically it filters down into short-term rates, and it really is kind of a lever that the Fed uses to stimulate the economy or to slow the economy down. That they'll move that up or down depending on what is going on. So, for instance, during COVID, during the pandemic, when the economy was on the floor, the Fed dropped that all the way down to zero to try and put dollar bills back in people's pockets so they would go out and spend, right? Because suddenly their credit card bills aren't quite as high as they were before, or it doesn't cost them quite as much to get a car, or this, that, and the other, right? And so they have more dollar bills to go out and spend, and that incentivizes people to, every dollar you spend, right, is a dollar in someone else's pocket, which they go on and spend, right? So it's when they drop interest rates down, it stimulates the economy, it pushes it forward. When they push rates up, and they never do just one big switch, they do it incrementally so it doesn't completely throw the whole market into chaos, but they'll ratchet it up a little bit to kind of stifle the economy, to slow it down, to decrease spending. Because if people have suddenly their credit card bills, their everything else is more expensive, they have less money to go out and spend. And when there's less demand for things, right, then inflation starts to come down. It's not an exact science, and it takes time. It's not that they raise interest rates and you see the effects the next day. Generally, it takes time for that to filter into, people's spending habits.
Yep.
But the reason why they're doing it is to bring inflation down. And so when you hear that the Fed is raising rates, it is to push inflation down, which helps mortgage rates. Because, as I said, inflation is a killer for mortgage rates. And so that's what's happening right now. And the Fed it's expected the Fed is they've reached kind of the end of their raising cycle. They've said they might raise it 2 more times, possibly, depending if they need to. The Fed meeting tomorrow, they most likely will raise it a time, and they might even call it quits at that point, because inflation is starting to show that it's starting to turn a corner. But yeah, that's what it means when they're raising rates. And so as the market is feeling more of the effects of that, and we can see the market's feeling the effects of that as we see inflation coming down from the peaks of where it was at, that's just going to help mortgage rates. So don't let that scare you when you hear people saying that. There's always the big taglines that likes getting thrown out there. The Fed is raising rates, and you read that and you see people making TikTok saying, "Oh my goodness, Fed is raising rates. Isn't that terrible?"
Yep.
And just don't let that scare you away from purchasing a home, because that's not what that means at all.
So basically what he's saying is, don't buy a car, go buy a house.
Exactly. Well, also a car. Yeah. You're gonna get a lot more value out of a home than out of a car. That's for sure. So yeah. Cool.
But yeah, I feel like. Do you feel like there's anything else we need to touch on, Oscar?
No, I'm not sure with the stopping and starting. How long we've actually been running for, but
about an hour.
Yeah,
roughly.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yep.
Nice. Well, I feel like there's so many other parts. So we've talked, a little bit about waiting versus moving forward. We've talked a little bit about our view of what mortgage rates are going to do. There's so much more that goes into buying a house, and we can talk about plenty more in the future. But we'd love to get, if you have specific questions on things, we'd love to hear from you. So let us know, and we can touch on those things.
Absolutely. Email, comment, text, call. It doesn't matter. If you guys have questions you want answers to, all of our information is somewhere below. So reach out to us anytime. Also follow us on social media. It's Instagram, Facebook, all that crap. That way, every time we go live, right before we go live, we're going to be posting a story just asking for any questions that want answers. So yeah, go follow us on those. Make sure your questions are answered. Let us know if there's anything else we can do for you. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, bear with us. We're learning here. But hopefully it's still entertaining, even though a couple of us had to leave periodically, but should be good. Next episode should be even better. We're going to improve every time. But like I said, let us know what you guys need. Appreciate it.
Awesome.